Hello, everyone. My name is Asaf Baltov. I work for the Wikimedia Foundation in the community development team. We're here to talk about Wikilearn, the new learning platform for the entire movement. I was supposed to deliver this with my partner in this project, Simona Ramkisoon, who manages the community development team, but she can't make it after all, so I'll be delivering this on my own. Let's put up the slides. The Etherpad should be pasted somewhere for you, and it's also in the program page. So you can put in any questions you may have, and they would be relayed to me. And so let us begin. So as I mentioned, I'm also representing Simona, who did this project with me, and we'll take you through the past of this program, a pilot program that we've run earlier this year, the present things we're working on, and we'll want to discuss with you the future of this program. So to begin, I'd like to discuss why we did this, why this was even necessary. Our strategy calls for us to become the essential infrastructure of the ecosystem of free knowledge. And to do that, among many other things, we absolutely have to invest in skills and leadership development. As I'm sure you all know, there is a very clear need for training resources that are up-to-date, high quality, and complete. And that's a need across the entire movement, in all languages, about all topics. There's just not enough training resources that are up-to-date and high quality and complete. Many of the training materials that do exist, and there are plenty of training materials, are underutilized. They're not used as much as they could and therefore should be, because people don't know that they exist, because it's difficult to discover these training materials, because they're on some page on Meta or on a local wiki, and unless someone points you to that page, you almost have no chance of finding out that that training even exists. And of course, there's all kinds of false starts, incomplete, unmaintained resources that were up to date and have fallen out of date, and nobody maintains them. And of course, there's many things that still have no training materials at all, and there are many languages that don't have any training materials at all. So the need is certainly great. And one of the barriers to skill development in our movement is access, in all meanings of that term. We historically have done learning and development at conferences. We sometimes call them learning days, or a separate track during the event, and we've co-located them with Wikimedia, with the Wikimedia conference in Berlin, with other regional events, and that works great. In-person training is very effective. It's probably the most effective way to teach, but it is also exclusionary and necessarily limited, because to benefit from that training, most people have to travel. You need to overcome a language barrier, because at regional or international conferences, you're not guaranteed to have training in your language. And for the vast majority of people, you won't have training in your language, but rather in English or in another major regional language that may not be your native language. You need to be able to take time off work. You need to be able to have some funding for the travel beyond the scholarship. And so that is necessarily not something that everybody can benefit from. Now, online learning addresses many of these downsides. For online learning, you don't need to travel. You can do it at times convenient to you. You don't need special funding for it. And theoretically, online learning is a lot easier to translate and make available in other languages. It certainly has downsides of its own. It's less personal, it's less warm, less immediate, perhaps less motivating, but it's also more flexible. You can easily repeat things that you want to take another shot at, or you missed, etc. And especially allowing everybody to learn at their own pace. So starting from that need, the community development wanted to think what would be an ideal platform for online learning. This, of course, became a lot more urgently needed with the advent of the COVID pandemic, but of course was a need even before then. It's just that the pandemic made it even more obvious and urgent that we need a good online learning platform. So what would be ideal? Ideally, the Wikimedia movement would have a platform where there were structured and up-to-date learning resources available for everyone to study. And when I say structured, I mean not just a bunch of up-to-date learning resources, but learning resources that are in some logical structure that build on top of each other. So not just units, but courses, something that takes you from A to B, from B to C, from C to D, and builds an ability, a capacity, and understanding in a structured and learner-focused way. Not just kind of reference information, not every command in the book, but a tutorial approach, a guide approach that walks you through and builds understanding step by step. Ideally, these materials would be available in multiple languages, with text being translated, videos being subtitled, audio being transcribed and then translated, etc. Ideally, volunteers can contribute learning materials, not just consume learning materials. The platform ideally should be editable, or at least easy to contribute your own material to, even if you don't get to edit other people's material. Ideally, we want some way of providing grading and automated assessment for self-study, so that when you are taking a self-study course, there is some automated process that can give you feedback on how you're doing, how your answers match up. Ideally, we also want to make available grading and mentorship and the ability to have qualitative assessments if it is a human-taught interactive course rather than a self-study course. We want both kinds to be available on this platform. We want materials to be easy to fork, that is, to clone or duplicate and then make changes so that I can make my own version better, different, shorter, longer, more suitable for my context or my language or whatever it is. It should be easy to fork and modify for my needs, just like we can do with open source software. And speaking of open source software, we want it all ideally to be on free software. So with these ideal qualities in mind, we decided to experiment, and that's what we did, the pilot that we did early this year, to experiment with a learning management system, an LMS. And we ran 2 interactive, that is human-taught, pilot courses on a free software platform called Moodle. Moodle, some of you may have encountered it in higher learning. It's used in many universities, etc. Now, the reason we picked 2 interactive pilot courses is that self-paced courses have fewer unknowns. I mean, we sort of know what a self-paced course looks like, but an interactive course has more moving parts, more dynamics. So we wanted to learn from the more complicated example. And we did 2 courses because we couldn't do 8, but we also didn't want to do 1 because that is too susceptible to accidental learning, right? If it so happens that this course, you know, had this atmosphere or that instructor, etc., we might draw the wrong conclusion. If we have 2 courses, that's 100% more data, and is infinitely better than just 1 course to learn from, while still being a modest pilot level investment. We are a very small team with a small budget. The topics for these courses we picked based on findings in the movement strategy about priorities, and also about from a survey we did before the last Wikimania Learning Days, Wikimania 2019, where the topic of partnership building came up as something that many volunteers wanted to learn. And identifying and addressing harassment arose from the movement strategy, of course. So these were the topics of the two courses. We developed custom, brand new curricula for these courses in English. And we taught these courses for 8 weeks, 1 lesson per week, 1 live 2-hour lesson per week. And every week also had assignments, written assignments. So the learners had to submit assignments after each lesson, and the assignments were graded and given feedback. Now, English was not the first language for most of the learners. Most of the people who signed up for the course, it was, of course, open sign up. A bunch of people applied. And we know that it was not everybody's first language. It's not my first language either. This was a known limitation of the pilot. We wanted to pilot in English, as we often do at the foundation, for maximal access, not universal access, but maximal access, and for ease of communication within the foundation. But certainly we understand that this only pilots the English language aspect of the ideal. The assignments were also in English, so already this was exclusionary in the sense that people who could only take the course if they could not only receive knowledge in English, but also write reasonably well in English so that they can submit written assignments. Some design considerations we had in mind. We decided we wanted the courses to teach some principles, but then to have the learners apply those principles in real life tasks and then get written feedback on these tasks. So not just deliver some teaching and hope for the best, but really see that teaching put in practice immediately, so that a week after you can already discuss feedback on those assignments and incorporate that feedback into the next lesson. The grades were personal and private. Only each learner received their own feedback, their own grade. It was just between them and the instructor. Nobody else could see the grades, because the point is to have an assessment of how well you are doing in acquiring the principles and in applying them. There was no reason to share the grades with anyone else. They weren't shared. They will not be shared. The lessons themselves were recorded. The video calls, of course, they were entirely online. The video calls of the lessons were recorded and made available inside the platform only for the learners, so that they could refer back to them when they're doing the assignments, or if they just want to be reminded. They are only accessible on the platform. They will be made available on Commons, and for technical reasons that are a little too boring to get into, they're not yet available on Commons, but they will be available on Commons. Just very briefly, one of the reasons it's taking a little time is that in the lessons we used a lot of personal examples. The learners were sharing examples from their own groups, communities, affiliates, and we wanted it to be a safe space to share these things, but of course, not everybody's ready to have those stories be out there on Commons forever. So we need to edit the videos to remove some of those, all of those shared stories, and replace them with slides where the instructors are basically drawing from those stories the illustrated principles, right? So that we do get what was discussed without any of the particulars that identify particular people or communities or prospective partners in the partnership course. So that's why it's taking some time, but all of these videos with some editing for privacy will be uploaded to Commons, will be available. We were hoping it would be ready by Wikimania, but it isn't. But it all will be uploaded, so that eventually people who did not attend the courses will still be able to benefit from the material. The assignments that we gave were designed so that they wouldn't just individually practice specific skills, but so that they would add up to a sort of toolkit for the learners, or scaffolding that will allow them to build more and more sophisticated projects in each of the two topics. The platform had easy integration with their existing Wikimedia identity using the OAuth technology. That's the, the prompt that you get in certain tools that say, please authorize this tool so it can make edits on your behalf. So in this case, no edits on your behalf, but you didn't have to remember a login and password. You just logged into the learning platform with your Wikimedia identity. Okay. Now, some of you may be wondering, why didn't we use Wikiversity? Don't we have our own learning platform? The answer is we don't. We don't have a learning platform. Wikiversity is not actually a good fit for our purpose. At best, Wikiversity is a collaborative environment, a wiki for developing curricula, for developing learning materials, but it's a very poor learning environment. It's not really designed for learners. And it doesn't have some basic features that a modern LMS, a modern learning management system, does have, like the concept of being enrolled in a course, of being part of a course, the concept of a cohort, like a group that is part of a course that you may want to run more than one time, but you want to somehow keep apart the groups that took the course in different years. It doesn't have any mechanism for submitting assignments, reviewing assignments, grading assignments privately. You wouldn't want everyone to see your assignments, your mistakes, or at least most people won't. It doesn't have any concept of inboxes or threaded discussion, which people do expect these days on internet platforms. It does have talk pages, of course. And it doesn't have a smooth integration with video calls, which was a major feature of the learning platform that we had. In this case, we were using the free software Big Blue Button video calls, and a number of other features like plugins to enable quizzes and other functions. So that's why not Wikiversity. And another question you may ask is, okay, why not build such features into Wikiversity so that it becomes a learning environment? Well, we could theoretically, but that, first of all, that is way beyond our power to decide as the small community development team. We cannot allocate the budget to do this. And secondly, because these other free software learning management systems do exist, it seems like not a good investment to start building Wikiversity from an inferior starting position to catch up with these systems rather than just use them for what they're already very good at. So that is why we did not pick Wikiversity. We did, however, pick a free software solution. All right. So zooming in, I'll give you a quick overview of these two courses that we taught and what we learned from them. And then I would like to encourage you to share some of your thoughts with us in a discussion. So the first course is the course I taught, Partnership Building. I developed the material and I taught the live lessons. And the goal of that course was to be an introduction to partnership building, meaning it was teaching the basics from the ground up, assuming you know nothing about partnership building, but targeting experienced Wikimedians, right? Experienced Wikimedians who are inexperienced at partnership building. That was the goal. And so that we wouldn't have to explain Wikimedia concepts, but we will explain everything to do with partners, how to negotiate partnerships, how to design partnerships, etc. There was an emphasis on practical and Wikimedia-specific examples. So even though the knowledge about how to choose a partner, how to negotiate a partner is really not rocket science and is fairly well understood stuff from the business and nonprofit worlds, we did try to keep it with concrete with examples from Wikimedia life, the kinds of partnerships that we Wikimedians tend to have, the kinds of partnerships that people want to have with us, so that these principles wouldn't remain abstract, but the assignments kept bringing it back down to how are you in your community, in your affiliate, going to apply this, this practice. All right. Just to give you a quick outline, you don't have to read this whole thing, but it's available here in the slides if you want to look at it later. This is the outline of the course. Again, it was 8 weeks. So we started with several weeks spent on the preparation to partner. And we start without even thinking about the partner. We start by thinking about ourselves. how to know what we are, what we do, and how to present what we are, what we do, using effective mission statements and effective ways of presenting ourselves, and we practiced that as well. Next, we moved to how to survey the ecosystem, the landscape around us, and map the various stakeholders, and from among them, the potential partners we might have. How to study our prospective partner via their public website, their social media presence, their press releases, a very intensive and useful practice, even before making any contact with them, just observing them from afar from their public materials. Then we started working on our actual materials for the partnership, beginning with our theory of change, what we are expecting would happen as a result of this partnership, and expressing it in a partnership pitch to express the value of the partnership. We moved on to how to do partnership meetings, negotiation meetings with partners, how to reach an agreement, how to say no and when to say no, and how to support our presentation, our pitch, with an evidence toolkit. Then we proceeded to talk about what to do about once the partnership is running. How do we involve the community? How do we inform the community? How do we keep a shared sense of reality with our partner? How to evaluate the partnership, how to refine it, how to end it when it needs to end. And then we moved on to some troubleshooting tips, how to recognize and deal with all kinds of things that can go wrong, how to prepare mitigations for the common or foreseeable problems. And the final project was putting it all together, all these various skills, into a 20-minute presentation of your partnership with the audience of your peers giving you feedback. So again, the assignments were very focused on practicing these skills each week. And most of the assignments, starting from the second assignment, were focused on a specific actual potential partner of your group. So each student had picked one partner that they would like to partner with, and all the assignments were aimed towards that partner, so that at the end of the course, they actually came out with a toolkit designed to create a partnership with that partner. Each assignment received detailed feedback, and if the feedback included a lot of things to improve, the learners were encouraged to resubmit with improvements, and it was checked again and given feedback again. The final project, as I mentioned, was a 20-minute partnership pitch in small groups, where we, the group that was listening, were role-playing the role of the prospective partner and giving feedback as though we were the prospective partner, asking questions about Wikipedia, that sort of thing. And then also giving feedback as peers and as the instructor. And that really put everything together, everything we've learned, how to self-present, how to do your research, how to present the value of the partnership, etc. So what did we learn from having run these courses? This course, 39 people signed up. 23 of them graduated with passing grades, meaning completed all the course assignments. The people who didn't, the 16 people who did not, about half of them had to stop because of personal circumstances, and the other half just didn't have enough interest to really do the assignments, and so they're not considered to have completed the course, but they attended some of the sessions. I've included here some feedback from people who liked the practical examples. It made my week better, and I liked the activities. The presenter did a great job, etc. So people were pleased with the structured instruction and with the relevance of the assignments. These are some numbers. You can look at them later, but they do show a very positive reception and opinion of the usefulness of the course and how helpful it was. And you can see that 100% are likely to recommend this course to other Wikimedians, and 94% would be interested in another course. So these are very encouraging numbers for us. They validate our theory that this was needed, that this was useful. So we're certainly happy to see that. I wanted to share, beyond the numbers, I wanted to share some stories with you. that we got as feedback after the final survey. One person wrote, we will have events like I planned, but I realized going through the course that as a group, we are not ready for a proper partnership with a big government agency yet. So this Wikipedian was planning a partnership with the government and realized they're actually not ready. As editors, we don't know each other very well, so that presents a level of risk I'm not comfortable with. That was such a valuable thing to realize. So we have, however, Wikified a festival and had a quick elevator pitch with the director of the festival. So I'm happily using the knowledge I have gained from the training. So I'm deliberately sharing this testimonial of a partnership that didn't happen. Because of the skills during the course, this Wikipedian realized they shouldn't actually attempt the partnership. They should actually prepare better. But here's something they can do in the meantime. Another example from another country, I had a meeting with the director of the national park so-and-so, and we have made a verbal partnership agreement. At the meeting, which lasted 2.5 hours, we talked about education and research and volunteering, etc. People received me very well just because I come as a Wikimedia educator, and they liked my idea more than I expected. The course for me means confidence, security, and support in everything I do for Wikimedia. Another example of how people got confidence to approach people like the director of a national park and give a good partnership pitch that ended in a partnership agreement. Another example, this one is about understanding the value of mission statements. We actually had a mission statement before. This particular affiliate had a mission statement, but it was focused on the generation of content. Thanks to this course, I realized that our mission could be improved. I worked with my user group and we came up with a new definition. We're now defining our mission statement to focus on people and their ability to develop new skills rather than content. We want to focus on people being able to learn the Wiki way, etc. So this is an example of a shift in people who already had a mission statement and realized that it wasn't actually expressing who they wanted to be and changed it. And a final quote, would you mind if I did a mini course with your material for my language Wikipedians who are interested in learning some partnership skills? Not a full course, just a sort of summary in my language, which warms my heart very much because that's the ultimate compliment to the materials, right? They're good enough that someone wants to take the time to translate them and share them further with their own community. So these make us feel that the course was useful and well received. A few more words about the other course. Again, this was supposed to be presented by Simona. I'll do my best, even though I wasn't present at this course. So this one is about identifying and addressing harassment. The goal here was very different. It was to introduce principles of harm reduction and empathy to administrators who are dealing with cases of harassment. So the audience of this course was different. Here we targeted people with administrator privileges, people who are sysops, right, on their local wikis and who have to deal with conflict and harassment on the wikis. This course was focused on learning to recognize the different forms of harassment, including some that don't spring to mind when most of us think of harassment, and learn how other communities, non-Wikimedia communities, are dealing with harassment. This one was more of a lecture and discussion in each of the classes. Each of the live sessions included more discussion than the partnership building course, partly because of the nature of the material. And the outcomes were building up to a strategic plan. So each learner started building, assignment by assignment, a strategic plan for themselves on how to address harassment in their own wiki, in their own language. This is an outline of the course, starting with definitions and implicit and unconscious bias, how to communicate empathetically or to reduce harm when talking to the targets of harassment, also how to communicate and give feedback to the perpetrators of harassment, and proceeding to learn from other communities about how they deal with harassment, and beginning to work on a plan and specific actions on how to deal with harassment in your own community. And again, participants presented their action to their peers, the other learners in the group, and got feedback and suggestions. The assignments here were designed to take no more than an hour each week. Some of the activities or the assignments were to participate in discussions on the forum inside the platform. Again, these were sometimes including stories from people's own sort of wiki life, so not appropriate to be shared publicly in order to allow people to be more candid, more open, more frank. And so it's only on the platform. And again, each assignment got detailed feedback. The final plans, of course, included SMART goals. So things weren't like, I will be more active in disputes on my wiki. They were more specific, they were more measurable, specific, concrete steps that people adopted in their respective wikis to combat and deal with harassment. 21 volunteers completed the entire course and all the sessions, and 18 of them submitted the final project with action plans. They included all kinds of projects. Two examples are providing unconscious bias training to their local community, and another person decided to create an online development tools to address microaggressions on their project. One participant started sharing a summary of each session in French, a participant from the French community. And the motivation for this summary was that other people who were hearing about the course were interested and wanted to benefit from some of the material in the course. Again, we feel that's a validation of the value of the course. Here, again, you see pretty strong numbers confirming the relevance and usefulness of the course. I learned many things I believe should spread to other volunteers who may be vulnerable or confused about what to do in cases of harassment. Wikilearn proved to be an incredibly useful exercise in perspective taking. It helped me better understand the limitations of our on-wiki systems and how they can exclude certain viewpoints from the project. This is a critical time for our projects as they come under attack from organized campaigns intending to skew our content, which challenges our claims to a neutral point of view. If harassment is unchecked and causes contributors to leave the projects, our adherence to founding principles and 5 pillars are at risk. So these were the 2 courses we have run, and these are more or less the results. There's also a written report coming up. It will be published on Meta in a couple of weeks. And now I'd like to briefly mention what we're doing right now, the present steps in this pilot year, and then we'll discuss our future plans. So right now we are planning to settle on a long-term learning platform with a different software, not the Moodle platform that we piloted with, but instead the other free software platform, OpenEdX, which we judged to be a better fit for our needs. And the existing 2 courses will be modified somewhat so that they're more usable for self-guided learning. And then those courses will be made available publicly on this platform, and they will be ready to be translated into other languages so that more people can take these courses on their own on the platform. We will also open the platform. We will invite creators of learning content from across the movement to develop their own courses on the platform, not necessarily in English, their own courses, that whether they're self-guided courses or interactive live courses on the platform. And to do that, we're working on this right now on the technical implementation of this OpenEdX-based platform. It will also, again, be usable with OAuth so that you would use your Wikimedia identity to log in so that it wouldn't be a pain. And we have lots of questions about how to best utilize this new platform, which is why we are starting this discussion here with you in this session. And of course, we're very open to anyone who wants to engage with us about this later over email, Telegram, whatever. So that's it. This is where we use the remaining 11 minutes for discussion. And I prepared some discussion questions that I'd like to go over, but I would like to, be able to see you and hear you so that you don't have to type and someone has to copy it, etc. So it would be easier to do it over on the Remo platform where you are right now, I'm going to join the unconference space. I've booked us a room. So if you go to building 6, not the building you're in right now, building 6, floor 3, we can actually do the discussion questions. I think it'll be easier than typing and me seeing the questions. Building 6, floor 3, if you're interested. If not, that's it. Thank you for your attention. But if you're interested in helping us by answering some of these questions about governance on this platform, we would really like to discuss this with you. Building 6, floor 3. See you there, and thank you. Okay, if you're still here with me, I'm in building 6, floor 3, table A. Building 6, floor 3, table A. And you can turn on your camera and your microphone, and you should be able to hear me there. Table A, I see some people joined, and I'm going to mute myself here.